Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in this video, I would like to tell you a short story from Storyberries entitled The Princess Who Wasn't by Templeton Moss. And first thing first, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Elsa Ramadhany and here I am as a storyteller. So without any further ado, let's get started. Once upon a time, there were 5 kingdoms. 4 of them were very famous, popular, loved, and made a lot of money from tourism every year. But the 5th was small, poor, and never had any tourists. The king and his advisors sat down to figure out what the other kingdoms had that theirs didn't. Princesses. Snow White, Rapunzel, Cinderella, and Sleeping Beauty live in those other kingdoms. Everyone likes princesses. We don't have a princess. How do we get a princess? His advisor explained briefly the typical process for something like this. But the king decided this would take too long, so he said they should just hire one instead. Scouts were sent throughout the kingdom to find the most beautiful girls in the land. The kings and his advisors had put together a list of traits necessary to be a princess, and beautiful was on the top of the list. Of course, when the young ladies of the kingdom heard about the search for a princess, they all wanted to be chosen. They put on their nicest clothes, did their makeup and hair just right, walked around the kingdom, posing and trying to look as princess as possible. Yes, it seemed every girl in the kingdom wanted to be a princess, except Kathy. Kathy was a sheep herder. She had inherited the farm from her father and couldn't afford to hire help, so she ran it by herself. It was a lot of work, but she enjoyed it. She loved her sheep and she loved her life, and she didn't want it to change. Unfortunately for her, it was about to change, because luckily, Kathy was the most beautiful girl in the village and was chosen by the king's men to come to the castle to try out for the job of princess. 4 other girls were chosen, and the 5 of them were cleaned up, dressed up, and brought before the king and his advisors and asked a lot of questions. What would be your first act as princess? What does being a princess mean to you? Why do you want to be a princess? I don't, said Kathy when it was her turn. She hadn't been given the option of not participating. She had been unable to stop the handmaidens from dressing her up in a fancy dress that was so tight around the waist she could barely breathe in it. But she wasn't going to lie. What? I thought every girl wanted to be a princess. Well, I don't. I want to be a sheep herder, which is what I am. I don't like fancy dresses, makeup, and high heels and jewelry. And by the way, why are those the things that make a princess anyway? Who's to say a princess can be someone who likes to work with animals or wears casual clothes or isn't necessarily this skinny? Who decided that a princess has to be pretty and elegant and not to do anything except marry a prince or go to a ball? So saying, Kathy walked away, changed out of the dress they put her in, and returned home to her sheep. And the next day, while Kathy was tending her flock, a voice behind her called her name. It was, oddly enough, the king. What brings you here, sire? I was up all night thinking about what you said, and I think you are right. It wasn't fair for me to single you and those other girls out just because of the way you look. I think maybe a princess can be whatever she wants, so I want you to have this. The king held up the tiara, the official headgear of princesses. I appreciate that, Your Majesty, but I don't want to be the princess. That's just it. You're not the princess, you are a princess. I hereby appoint you a princess of sheep. and she is Princess of Milk. And over there is the Princess of Chocolate Chip and Cookies. And there's also a Princess of Basketball, a Princess of Crocheting, and a Princess of Juggling. Yes, from then on, every girl in the kingdom was a princess. Tall, short, thin, fat, and well, let's say, pretty in a different way than the other. They were each princess of whatever they were best at. And of course, with all of these princesses, the kingdom became a booming tourist attractions. And Kathy, the Princess of Sheep, lived happily ever after. The end.